What's up, guys? Jacob here. Today, I am sitting down with the wonderfully talented Lynette Williams. We just got to jam a little bit. It was so awesome.
So cool.
So glad you're here today.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Awesome.
It really is.
We have our dueling Korgs.
Yes.
And we're just going to get into talking about what makes these keyboards so great and why you love using them.
Okay, cool.
So, just kind of starting from square one, what makes the Kronos so great for you, and specifically for what you do? Because you've got a really impressive list of artists you play with. So like from Childish Gambino to will.i.am. So what's like the first few things you think of when you think of the Kronos and like what makes it so special?
One of my favorite things about the Kronos has to be the piano sounds.
Okay.
And the Rhodes sounds. I was just so thrown and taken aback when I heard like the German grand and just how rich and how even like just the velocity and just how it felt so authentic compared to the other keyboards that I've played. And that won me over right then and there. And then the fact that it's just so user-friendly. There's so many cool templates to build from like not just Rhodes, but synth sounds, lead sounds. And, you know, I play this board with every artist I work with now. Like this board is a staple in my home life when I'm working and then when I'm on the road. Everyone knows Kronos. Like if anything else, give me that Kronos because I know that board. I love how you can save everything to a thumb drive, pop it on the back of here, and upload sounds, and like that board instantly becomes like your board at home.
Because you do a lot of sound design, like specifically designing patches for your shows right on the Kronos.
Right on the Kronos.
Yeah, and you can save it and then, you know, organize it in the set list and everything you want to do to get it ready for a show.
Yeah, it's insane. My set list, the way it's set up, it's set to every artist that I worked with, past and present. So I still have sounds from like Layla Hathaway. I have a whole set list of sounds for her. And then of course with Childish Gambino, set list for him, and now with Lizzo. And it's just really cool how everything is consolidated. I have like maybe 22 set lists, you know, for those sounds. And it's just so cool when I upload it onto the next, you know, keyboard Kronos. Let's say I'm playing with a different artist next week and I saved it on my Kronos. Now that set list has been added to other artists.
Right.
You know, so it's very convenient. And that's what's also has won me over with the Kronos. Like I just have a deep love for it. It's kind of borderline obsessive,
but that's great. I mean, for a board that, you know, is your main thing. And for, you know, talking to a lot of keyboard players that are maybe thinking about what they want, you want to fall in love with it like that. You gotta, like you said, even just the sounds. Like for you, like the piano sounds, you were immediately just like, oh, that's how it's supposed to sound. And if you play it and it's expressive in the way you want it to be too, then just you're hooked. So like, that obsession is important.
It really is.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about just the piano engine, because there are, I believe, 9 different sound engines in the Kronos.
Yes.
Just gonna kind of like give people a bit of a taste of that.
Yeah. Wow. You know, a good friend of mine, he goes by the name of B Styles Music. He took that German grand sound and he kind of made it more authentic to him. And he loaned it to me to play together. And so as you play that, I just wanted to see if you can tell the difference of what he did. He made it a brighter.
Yeah.
So he kind of opened the
the lid.
He made it to kind of where it's a little higher up.
Right.
Just to kind of make it more rich. But for me, I love the piano sounds on here so much that I touch it just a little.
Sure.
But I loved how his interpretation was, and it's so crazy to me how everyone has so many different interpretations, but there's so many piano engines on here.
And that's the other thing, the the screen and all the pictures and stuff they use for everything are so interactive and pretty.
It's like, so interactive.
I mean, look at this picture of an actual grand piano, and I can drag the lid up. So
isn't that crazy?
And then I can close it.
It's amazing.
That's probably my favorite thing.
My favorite thing, it's like the organ on here. How you have a picture of the Leslie.
Yes.
And you can change how fast the Leslie moves. I've had a Kronos since, I'd say 2013.
Okay.
And I just discovered that 2 years ago.
Wow.
Meaning there's just so many things that you can learn. And like, one of my favorite organ sounds is the Memphis organ I took and like just, like I changed the Leslie speed. I kind of made it a little slower because it felt a little more authentic to me because I'm a Hammond player too. Like you see like and then I also did it to where you can change the tone like a drawbars. Or if I want all the drawbars out. And then if I want to close the tone. That's amazing how just multifaceted and how versatile this keyboard is.
Yeah, so you do like, because I know a lot of keyboard players that have stage pianos, they also will have like a second keyboard that's like for their organ playing. So like if they do B3 and stage piano stuff and Rhodes, they have it split, so you have a second keyboard with drawbars and stuff.
Right.
But with the Kronos, you can go back and forth, like you do your serious B3 playing on the Kronos, right? Because you were telling me with your drawbars and everything, you have it set. And that's really cool, I think. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That just speaks to how great the keyboard is.
Yeah, it's so versatile. Yeah. It's insane. Like, you know, there's a funny story while we're still on like organ, key sounds. There's a song called Worst Guys, Gambino. We've been playing this song since I've been touring with him. So 8 years. And it's very simple. It's just so I took it from, you know, a template. It was a regular keyboard and I added some, you kind of hear that vibrato thing. Yeah. It's my most prized possession on this board because one day during a tour, it was like the third tour I was on with him. He just happened to look at my hands while I'm playing and he goes, "You're playing that live?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "Dude, the whole time I thought that was in the box," meaning it was tracked.
It was part of the track.
Because, you know, we have certain instrumentation, we only have 2 arms, so certain facets. And I was like, no, that's me. When I'm not playing, it's like no parts. And that was the biggest compliment to me. That's why this is my most prized sound, because I'm like, ooh, like, it's all about matching the record.
And you fooled him.
And I fooled the artist who created the song. So I was like, if I can get that every time with different artists.
Sure.
You know.
So you said there's like a little bit of a vibrato thing?
Yes.
I don't know if you could show that. And then.
Yes. I went into the effects mode, or IFX mode, IFX. And basically, you know how you have your options here on the MFX. So this is what I did. The first MFX1.
It's a lot of letters.
There's a lot of letters. So what I did was I went into the preamp section and I added, it's called mic modeling plus preamps. So at first I was like, well, maybe a guitar amp. Because I knew it was something, it was distorted, but it wasn't too distorted. So I'm like, that's a little too much.
It's more grit than like distortion, right?
More grit.
Well, it's color, because to me, with your setting on, it kind of sounds like almost squashed a little bit.
Exactly.
You know, like kind of that, it's more in the middle than.
I knew though I needed to change also the attack because it was more of an attacky type, percussive type thing. So you kind of hear wah, and I added a wah to it.
I was about to say, it's like that water drop sound.
Yeah, the water drop sound. And I was like, how can I play this sound? Because it sounded like someone was playing a Rhodes, but they had all these pedals, right? You had like a wah pedal, and you had like, not a phaser, but you had kind of like a preamp that gives it that kind of grit, but you also had a little bit of chorus. So I added a little bit of smooth hall reverb smooth hall. So, and then I also changed the tune just a little.
Oh,
because
like you detuned it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like at the very end, you kind of hear like that. It's very faint.
It's got like a little vibe to it.
Yes, but that's what I really put my ears to, that patch when I had to create it for tour. And it's my most prized possession. Like, I did so much to it. I took, of course, the EQ. I took some of the highs. Actually, I took the highs all the way down.
Yeah, I'm about to say, because it's
highs,
high.
It's
high up octave-wise, kind of, but it sounds very like
it's
mellow.
Very compressed and
down.
very And I wish I had a reference, I could show you the difference. But for him noticing that was a huge thing to
people
me.
out there, even though we obviously can't just play the whole thing,
they know the song. Worst guys.
And go listen to it and listen to this, and you'll be amazed. So what's the root sound engine that you're starting with? A Rhodes sound?
I started with a Rhodes sound.
Okay.
I can't remember specifically which Rhodes, but it was a chorus EP. It was something similar to the. Actually, this was the sound I took it from. EP Mark preamp cabinet.
Okay.
And you hear the difference between the factory sound and then what I do now.
Straight up Rhodes.
You hear that reverb too.
Yes.
This kind of, and I love a good challenge. So that's why I love programming sounds on my own, because I trust my ears better than, you know your own judgment and your own ears. And some sounds may take longer to perfect, but
that's part of the fun of it, though.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So we've talked about some pianos, we talked about Rhodes, we talked about organ. What about some of the synth sections? Because I got to say, from the experience I've had with the Kronos, the synth, all those engines are some of the most like thorough engines in it, and there are so many options. I mean, it's like it's like having the best synth VSTs just built in with the interface and everything. So like, how do you feel about those synths?
I love, so one of the songs we have that I play with Donald's called 3005, where it's not on the actual record, but live. Our music director wanted, because the guitar player also doubles as my aux player. So he wanted him to play like a level of synth, and mine was more kind of aggressive but higher. So when you hear like the, and I like to use the pitch bend.
Oh yeah.
So it makes me feel like when I'm playing big chords, it's just so rich. And like even the same thing when I play Juice with the
It's almost got that Prince sound to it.
It's and the sound that I actually created it from was called, it's the 1999 synth.
I knew it.
That's one of my favorite.
Totally, and that is one of the coolest things about the Kronos. And I think there are definitely a few keyboards I've encountered that do this, but it's very expansive on here, which is so many of the presets are named after famous songs.
Oh yeah.
And so like a lot of people might think like, oh, well that's just like, if you want to do a cover band thing, or then you don't have to do so much work to build the sounds, which is true. But in your case, you used one of those presets to make a sound for one of your touring gigs. So like, it was cool to not have to start completely from scratch, but start from a sound from an artist that already means something to you. You're like, oh, I love this Prince thing, but if I tweak it just this, and this, now it's perfect for something else.
Exactly. I love how there's just so many different layers of like synth sounds in here. Like you have that, and then there are sounds that I've made that's a little more like, this almost sounds like a horn type synth.
Like an 80s synth horn type thing.
You're right. Like there's that, and then there's
I'm getting
the one
Ghostbusters vibes a little bit.
Right, Ghostbusters, like.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, what was there was one synth sound you were starting to tell me about, I think, that you like designed, or there was some
Sex Patch.
Wait, what's it called?
Sex Patch. It's funny because I talked about this at the Gear Fest a couple of years ago.
Okay.
There's a lead sound that I can't even remember what the template was on the M50, but I spent 2 weeks and built from that sound. And every time I posted on Instagram, people like, what sound is that? So because that board is hard to duplicate it, I was like, I want to try and make another version of that on the Kronos. So I'm still working on it. I'm getting close. So basically I took just a simple sine lead and I changed the portamento, meaning now you hear the
bend between each notes, the glide.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was a mono sound, meaning you can only play one note at a time. I was like, no, I like playing chords. So I made it poly. So the right? So now we're getting close. I'm still perfecting it, but that is definitely, it's a challenge for me. Each time I have some downtime, I just sit with it. I'm at home, I sit with it, you know, I might have a glass of wine to like really try and get into a zone, and I'm like, oh, we're getting there. And I have my M50 still, so I compare. I play that, and then I play the Kronos. I'm like, we're getting there, because I feel like once I lock it in here, I'm good to go. I can take that sound with me wherever there's a Kronos. Like for me, one of my favorite types of sounds are from the 80s and 90s. That's why I have Sex Patch. I'm trying to create that lead patch that's very 90s R&B.
Right.
But then you have like the pop aspect that also had different layers of pads and synths. And it's just so cool when I think back onto those sounds and I create sounds today, and it's like,
it's giving you that nostalgia.
Yeah, the nostalgia.
And you're like, that's the sound, that's the
thing. And that's how, like, one of my favorite synth pianos on there is called the Piano Power Grand. I don't touch it. I just love it the way it is, like the, like that. Like just the.
It makes me think of like a lot of like big Michael hits.
Yes.
Or just like all those power ballads from that era.
And even with Layla, like she had a song from the 90s that we still did, and it was a sound just like that. So it was like. I think I'm playing the wrong key. It's been so long since I played it, but you know, it was just very like nostalgic. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to touch this sound at all. It's perfect the way it is. So that's a cool thing too. You don't always have to work that hard. Sometimes there are sounds in there that are already set for you.
Ready for the gig.
Ready for the gig. And sometimes maybe I'll just, because I can't help myself, maybe I'll put just a little bit more of reverb or bring it down or bring the high down a little. You know, it's so many different things you can do with. You can make a sound for her, and then I can make another sound from the same template for someone else. And another thing I love about the Kronos, I like to point out, this is something that I just learned recently. You know, like let's say you have a show, right? And you just learned the show. Let's say you can't remember the key or what sounds. What I do is where it says like German grand, I'll go into the edit mode and go where it says slot name. Let's say I'm playing respect. So I'll put like respect piano, save it, and it doesn't change the sound. It still says where the factory sound is at the bottom. So now I have all these different names for each sound, and I'm like, oh, I don't even need a set list. I mean, it's perfect why it's called set list, because there's so many things you can do without even having to figure out, okay, what do I play next? Well, because it's right before you. And I just think that is so cool. And the Kronos keeps making me fall more and more. It's like the board that keeps on giving. You know, it's always something new. It's like I have a new board each time I learn something. So.
Okay, well, I had a ton of fun with you today, checking out the Kronos. I feel like you school me on it. You like know this thing. I know how great it is, but like you really use it to the max. And I personally enjoyed hearing your stories of discovery and the sounds you've made.
Thank you.
And it's amazing. Now you talked a little bit about some of the artists you played with. Is that what you're planning to do coming up? I know the music world has been intensely slowed down as the rest of the world for a bit, but you're going to be getting back into it soon,
Yes,
right?
hopefully in the fall, you'll see me out with some of your favorite artists, some of my favorite artists.
There you go.
You know, I see that festivals are slowly coming back, so prayerfully you'll see me soon, and when you do, you will see this baby. You might see even two of them. With me.
There you go.
But wherever you see me, whether it's like at a small wedding or I'm playing an arena, this Kronos is going to come with me everywhere.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, Lynette, it's been a pleasure playing with you today.
Thank you.
Getting to meet you. I really hope we do it again.
For sure.
Yes, for sure. And I want to remind everybody out there, if you have any questions about the Kronos, you can call your Sweetwater sales engineer, and they're happy to help you. Thanks for watching, guys.